It's Thursday, July 28th. I'll call the meeting of the trustees of trust fund to order. And I will entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the last meeting on June 28th.
I move approval of the minutes.
Second.
Okay, any corrections, additions, deletions? Any changes at all? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous. Okay, let's tell us about the Historic Cemetery Trust request.
We had a small request come in. There was one more invoice that came in out of that allotted $2,500 that the city council approved. We had spent, I want to say, $1,300. This is just a small invoice that came in after the fact for $178.36. I do have a copy of the invoice, and I apologize, it did not go out in the packets. I missed that. So if you approve that, we just would like to sign off, and that might be the end of it. I don't think that there's any more, but there's still a little bit less to spend.
Isn't there still a cleaning scheduled for early September?
And there could be, in which case, I've got a running tally on that. I think they've spent about $1,500, so they still have about $1,000 left to spend, so.
Yeah, well, it looks like they purchased about $1,705,
Is it
it
17?
says here.
Okay.
And this is only 178, so,
So,
okay.
I do have the Home Depot. It's, cleaning supplies, totes, cleaning supplies, brushes. Happy to show it to you if you want to see that.
That's good. This may be the materials for the September
Oh, it could be.
event.
Yep.
Okay, well, I will entertain, unless you have questions, I'll entertain a motion to approve that disbursement.
I move approval of the disbursement 178.36.
Second.
Okay, any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous. And now,
Can I
Kathleen?
turn the fan down on the, it's blowing into the
Do what you
pipes?
need to do, that's
Okay,
fine.
Thank you. Thanks.
Kathleen, tell us about the Nancy Roy Career and Technical Education Award.
Nancy retired as the principal of the Lister Academy in June, and throughout the spring, they worked with me to create this award as a surprise for her. They have their own graduation, even though their students get a Portsmouth High School diploma, and they can walk in the full graduation. So they wanted to make, their students take different paths after graduation, all different kinds of paths. Some go to college, some go in the workforce. They wanted to give an award of cash to the student, unlike traditional scholarships that go towards higher education. So if a student's going into the workforce, and it's similar to the Patty Wagner one that we consolidated a number of years ago, but that was very similar, to give a cash award to a student moving on after graduation. It's a named scholarship because it's going to pay out a principal and interest till it's gone. And the staff and the incoming principal, or whoever that may be, will select the student. So it's pretty straightforward. It's written like all the other ones.
This doesn't go through the guidance counselor at the high
No,
school?
this will be totally at the Lister. And they actually, because they wanted it to be a surprise, we couldn't take it to the school board till after graduation, so they had collected the funds and gave out the first award at their graduation and told Nancy about the scholarship. And then this is, I think they turned over about $4,100, which was a sizable amount that they collected. Usually people collect much less than that in this type of endeavor, but.
So will this be coming next year? Will this be coming from them to me, and it will not be part of the high school's packet?
Correct. Well, we'll have to, in the cover memo, you could keep it on that list just for consistency and everybody knowing that, but it would.
But they choose it.
They would choose it,
Okay. I just want to be clear.
but it should be on the list.
Okay.
Questions, Peter?
No, that'll,
It's going to last a long time.
Yeah, last
15 to 16 years and it'll be done?
Yes. Unless somebody contributes more or the
Yeah,
stock
okay.
market turns around.
So that'll be in the document that once it's gone, it's gone.
Yeah,
month. This is the
In the trust.
document.
it's paid out of principal and interest, so.
So this seems to envision that there could be more than one.
Yes, I think this year they gave out 2.
Okay. So in terms of Judy putting it on the list, well, I guess the logistics of
Yeah.
deciding, is it 1 or 2, or when do they make their decision?
Anytime that works for you, so we could say if you anticipate, I can instruct them, if you're going to give it away more than one, they'd have to let you know by January.
December
December.
30th, because I bring it to the trustees
Okay.
in January.
I'll-
Yes, please.
When I send word back, it'll all be in writing, so
Yes,
everybody will know.
okay. Could you copy me on it, so I know who
Oh, I
will be
absolutely would,
contacting me?
yeah.
Okay, that's perfect. Thank you, Kathleen.
So if there is more than one, they don't share the award, they get 2 separate.
That's what they did
25.
this year,
Okay.
yes.
And the only other question I had was, what happens if the Lister School, or Lister Academy is phased out or something at some point? Does this award go to a regular high school student, or would it?
It doesn't actually contemplate that, but what, I don't even think we'd have to go to court to do it, but I would envision that if there was some amount left, it would go into the community scholarship fund for the trades, whatever we call that one, I can't
Yeah,
remember.
okay. Well, that's kind of what I was
Yeah.
wondering about. The only reason I even think of this is because I saw this morning's
Yeah.
headline, it said,
Well,
About Lister
I don't think there's any question that Lister Academy may not always be in that location. I guess my question is, what happens if it's no longer called Lister Academy?
Because there's a prohibition about naming buildings, and so when the old PASS program was at Sherburne School,
Yeah.
you couldn't name, there was a move, they wanted to name something after Bob, who many years ago was the
Yeah.
impetus for starting this. So they named the program the Lister Academy, which is part of the high school,
Right.
but it's a program within the high school, technically, but it's located physically, not on site. So it's anticipated they're gonna go to the community campus, but the program goes, it's not the building.
Okay.
okay.
Yeah,
Well,
interesting distinction, yeah.
Yeah. So that's why we have rooms that are named after people, but not buildings.
Just, I know this one's already been signed, and I'm okay with
There's a
it.
typo on it, I'm just,
But well, there is one, but that's okay.
if it's not on the signature page, I can fix that.
Well, just, if you get, well, you haven't got it in front of you, but if you can remember, number 4, paragraph 4 says that the qualifying senior is one that is a graduate of Lister Academy program, Portsmouth High School, and who exemplifies the value of the Lister Academy community. It should be the values of the Lister Academy. So, but my thought when I was, after reading the headlines and thinking about this morning, it would be helpful to have a provision that says that if for some reason the academy ceases it, the money goes into that community fund. I mean, that might be something to think about as we do new individual scholarship things that sort of create a
Go to one of
default,
those.
you
Yep.
know, just to save having to go back and do a non-judicial arrangement. But, other questions? Peter, Jane?
Just one, I just didn't remember that we could do name funds if interest and principal were paid out. Was that,
That's part of it.
That's the sunset option.
and so it can be named with a sunset option?
Right.
I just slipped my mind that
Like,
that was
Some
possible.
of the ones, the Rappold Scholarship was the first one we did after that.
Yeah,
they
okay,
picked it.
well, it makes sense.
And I would say that has become the most popular.
Yes, it makes
choice.
sense.
Yeah, in many ways, particularly if it's someone who is affiliated with a school, in 10 years, the
Right.
students aren't going to know who
Yeah.
that person was, and so I'm sure a lot of people think, I just want the current generation to know about them, but,
Well, another one that's exactly that point is the Russ Wilson Scholarship.
Right.
So the bigger awards are in the early years, and eventually that's going to pay out also. But the students that he knew and knew him will have graduated after the first 4 years of the scholarship. Well, a little bit longer because of the rec programs, but
okay.
I would say almost everyone's picking that option now, Dana.
Okay. Any other, if no other comments or questions, then I'll entertain a motion to
So move.
approve this.
Second,
All right. All in favor?
all right,
Aye.
Since, can you, that's the original, or somebody, oh, she is, if I could take it back with the signatures, we're ready to roll.
Judy doesn't miss a beat. She's
How
got
is,
everything.
How is the other scholarship doing that? I don't know, I got a call at home one time.
I can't.
Tom got a call.
Okay.
You know, it's in probate, and I've checked periodically.
This is the Tom McCann one?
Yeah, and
Yeah.
another one, we're gonna, I don't think we've gotten it, Judy, on Bill Mortimer's. We're gonna get a distribution out of that, and that's been, we're going on 3 years.
Yeah, I haven't heard anything further on it.
But it's something I check on periodically, because on the McCann one, we're supposed to get the residuary of the estate, and I think it involves selling a house. And
Thank you.
Now, with all these changes, are you still going to be here?
Subject to being told otherwise at any moment, yes. Yeah, I'll get the,
This,
it's Ju-
okay.
July.
Do you want to take this and then
Yeah, I
give
will.
it to me? Okay.
I'll do it with a memo through Cynthia.
Thank you.
I would anticipate that I still have a job, but
Maybe it would be a good thing you get to retire, you know?
but that should be my option.
Yeah, well, that's the funny thing about that. Well, thanks for coming in.
Oh, you're.
Thank you, Kathleen.
See ya.
You all.
Good to see you.
Thanks, Judy.
You're welcome, Kathleen.
Okay, next item on the agenda is the TD Wealth Management report. These are the end of June, right?
This is, I got a little bit of everything in there. I have the end of year, I've got inception to date, so let's walk through it.
Actually, the reason I say that is because things have been a little better in July than,
Yes, that's only through June. Okay. So for the month of June, obviously, there were 3 payouts out of the funds in June. We had $97,000 come out of the parks, which is for the second installment and the final installment for the fiscal year '22 budget. And then we had the $7,219 out of scholarships, which was to cover some scholarship checks that had been written, and the $1,526, which was for the Historic Cemetery Trust, to cover the check that was cut for that. So that's why those are a little bit more. The second sheet that you have is a June to June comparison, June 21 all the way through to June 22. See, from June of 21 to June of 22, we're down 15%. A lot of that is due to the market. Yeah. The next sheet is an inception to date from TD, which is actually from April 21st, April 21 through June of 22. And overall, since the inception date, we're down 11%. So it's again, And anything highlighted in yellow on that sheet was a month that we had some payouts. So, you know, that would be like the 97,000 coming out for the parks, and which does change the percentage a little bit. And the very last page.
Excuse me, Judy, instead of highlighting it in
Yes.
yellow, could you just drop down and say disbursements and,
Down below?
yeah, just so that we,
List the disbursements down below, I can do that,
yeah.
sure. And then the very last one is your year-to-year performance, going back so far from fiscal year 16 to the close of fiscal year 22. And that's, the percentage numbers are year-to-year comparisons, not from the inception date. So from fiscal year 21 to 22 is that 15.4% decrease. You can see fiscal year 21, coming from 20, we had a big increase of 20%, so.
And this, again, includes disbursements, it's not just
That is correct.
performance, okay.
That is correct. A little bit of a blip on the radar for fiscal year '22, but overall, it's a steady increase. Fiscal year '22 is just a tough year.
Yep. And using fiscal year 16 was just an arbitrary choice, or?
That's as far as I went back. I have prior years, I just haven't gotten to do that
Oh, okay.
history yet.
All right.
It's an ongoing project for me to get this the way that you want it. I can go back all the way to when we first started doing investments. I just haven't gotten that there yet.
Okay.
Dana, what happened in 19 and 20?
Pandemic. In 20? What year?
Well, we were only up in fiscal year 19, we were only up 1.5%. And then in 20, only up 2.1%.
I can go back and get the Payson reports, which generally tells
Yeah.
what the climate was like, if you'd like that. I can,
No, I don't remember that the pandemic had that much of an effect in those 2 years.
Well, it wouldn't have 19,
Oh,
it would have been in
I
20.
mean, in 21, we were still in it.
Yeah, that was the rebound.
The month, we had the huge, you know, bounce back.
it was also when we did the switch, too. We switched from one investment company to another, and they kind of reallotted a little bit as well. But the economy had a big rebound in '21.
But I'm trying to remember what happened. Did we make a big disbursement in 19?
I'm not sure. I mean, I can go back and look at, I mean, I've got all the Payson, when they came in and had their portfolio
Yeah.
things that they handed out. I can go back and look and report back.
Again, it would be nice to know, not to give you more work, but what was dispersed in those years.
Okay.
Because that can have an effect on the growth.
Yeah.
I can add it on, disbursements.
I'm just trying to remember, what year did they finish up the burying ground?
Yeah, Bearing Ground's kept separately, so Bearing Ground's
So this
not in the
wasn't, okay,
investments.
all right, because that was like $1 million there.
Yeah, and that was kept separately.
Well, but the monies that the city received from the sale of the Connie Bean Center, those went into that Army-Navy trust.
Yeah, there was about 600,000 because
And then
that,
they were dispersed, weren't they?
just dispersed. It was just dispersed for the community campus.
idea about that. That doesn't ring a bell with me at all.
Yeah, there's something interesting there, because in 2020, S&P was up, 16%.
Well, let me look into it, and I'll report back. I don't have a
Yeah.
problem doing that.
Yeah,
Well,
I'll double check my numbers, too, make sure I didn't make a mistake. I don't think so. It's pretty,
this is really helpful, because when our friend from TD comes next time, as far as I'm concerned, they don't need to send us their report, because it's not worth, they don't get it. We need it consolidated, rather than have to go through every one of their reports.
I agree, that report,
Yeah.
I don't want to get it. It's just more paper for nothing.
Yeah. But if there was a cover sheet to it,
well, he told me he could help me set up.
Well,
one, and I'm
no,
like,
no,
I don't
no,
need
no,
your
no,
help to
no,
set up
no.
one. I can do it myself.
you know,
Sports TV. So I'll make those changes to my report, and we can tweak it some more if you
Yeah,
want to
that'd be
see some
great.
more.
yeah, the problem is going back now and reconstructing everything is just a ton of work to, you know.
Tom had asked me to put together the year-end summary for the total investments that the trustees, this includes the TD Wealth as well as a few small savings accounts, or, checking account, and that total amount held is 19, that 19 million figure, which includes the breakout up above of, there's a little bit still left there's the futures money, there's the Daniel Street Trust still has the 14,000, which is specific to be used for, I believe it was flagpole or flagpole repairs, a memorial, something to do with memorial flagpoles. That's being held. African Burial Ground still has 29. Public Arts Trust has 31. That 2245, interestingly, when they paid out the CD, they gave us the payout for the CD, which was for the Daniel Street Trust, which was for the community center. And then at the end, they were like, oh, well, for the 2 weeks that you were in there, you've got $22. So now we have $22 sitting in a little savings account over there that if you would be so inclined, I can close that out, because it's just kind of,
Yeah, well, is it supposed to be
Silly.
earmarked for something in particular?
well, it's Daniel Street Trust, so I could roll it up into that 14,000 up above.
Yeah.
yeah.
Let's just do that.
Okay, so if you could make a motion for, that it's all right for me to
So
do
moved.
that.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Thank you. And I will roll that up. And then in the Citizens Banking account, at the end of June, there was the 300,000. There were some checks that hadn't cleared yet. The Cable Trust, which was a big payout, and a couple of other scholarship checks that they hadn't cleared yet. They have since cleared, so that amount is less. And then your TD investments. So at the end of June, this preliminary, I haven't done my closing entries yet to finalize everything, but at the end of June, the trustees were responsible for a total of $19 million.
Tom, what'd you do with the difference when we were up around 22? What have you
Yes.
done with that?
Did I tell you about
Some
my
of
new
it got
home?
spent, though, community center that was,
Yeah.
big chunk of change.
Speaking of which, on this report, and, per Peter's request, all of which is good, but that only will give us balances
Yeah.
as opposed to performance, investment performance.
Okay,
And
is that something that TD should be providing
Yes.
for you?
yes, and if we want to know the performance trend, we got to kind of reflect back to Payson and their annual performance, and then
Take
add
those.
in TD to take a look.
Okay.
Yeah, and when the TD folk were in last time, we discussed wanting to get some peer review
Want me to follow
comparisons, and not peer review, but peer performances, and I haven't heard anything from them, so.
Nope,
When are they coming in again, September?
October.
October?
I don't know, Tom, if it shouldn't take a fairly stern letter from the chair on those issues to them.
All right, well, why don't you reach out, and if you don't,
If I don't get a
by the
satisfactory
time I get back
response.
from
Oh, yeah, you're leaving, right?
my vacation, I'll send a letter.
Where are you going this time?
I'm going to Sweden,
Back there?
yeah.
Good.
We have a daughter who lives there, so. Okay, anything else on TD?
No,
All right. Let's talk about the website. And you started this conversation, Dana, with your email back on
Right.
July 9th because of somebody, and I had it happen to me again after I sent you a
Oh,
response.
Yeah,
I actually had a gentleman who lives next door to the J. Smith Pocket Park,
oh, yeah,
who was concerned about the fact that there was a lot of late-night noise and rowdiness. And so he had called around to the city and ended up talking to the legal department and was told, well, you gotta call the trustees of trust funds, they're in charge of the park. Here's Tom Watson's number, call him. So,
we're not in charge of that park,
we're
right?
not in charge of any parks at this
Right.
point. And you'll recall, we really never had oversight of that park. It was
Right.
Michael doing maintenance work on his own off time. It wasn't even part of his Prescott Park duties. So I have since spoken to Bob Sullivan and said, whoever over there is spreading the word about our role has got it wrong. So he was gonna circulate a internal memorandum to everybody in the department saying, if there are any inquiries along these lines, they need to go to the city manager's office. And in fact, that's what ended up happening with this gentleman. So the question is, the instance you're talking about were not, those people weren't directed to you from anybody. They just thought that,
Now, how did that inquiry come about? One was for the public comment area. I think somewheres on the website, under trustees, it has us being responsible for administration of Prescott Park, which needs addressing.
yeah, so I have a copy of your email here. So you say, within the past few days, I received 2 interesting inquiries that bring into focus the need to clarify the role of the trustees and that of the city on city website. The first was from Sue Sherry, or Sterry, who is chairing a new cemetery committee. She wanted to know if the trustees owned or were responsible for the Point of Graves Cemetery.
Right.
I don't know, there's nothing on the website that says that.
I don't know
so.
how that came about.
And then the second was from another individual interested in putting a map of public comment space on Prescott Park. The city website does not have it included. The site would leave one to conclude that the trustees determine and enforce the policies of public comment space. Website also does not speak to whether advance permission is needed to use the public comment space, et cetera. So, I probably what we want to do, if we want to still pursue this, is to probably have Alan Brady come in. I think he's still in charge. He's not, okay.
Stephanie is.
Oh, Stephanie, okay, that would be, okay.
Yeah,
So maybe we can have Stephanie come in and
Maybe I can
August.
try to download copies of what's there and get them out to you prior to that meeting so that you can see what's being, how it's lined up and who it's being referred to, so that you can
Yeah.
know what changes you might like to make.
yeah, sure. why don't you do that? But
Okay.
let's also just, each of us take an independent look at the website. You know, the whole Prescott Park information originally was all part of the trustees, and so
Right.
now there's a whole site with all the master planning and the policies and all that material.
Just
But maybe we just need to pare down our site, so it really just focuses on our role, what our role is these days.
Yeah. I know that I'm listed for the docks, and that's fine. People do call me for the docks, so, and that's fine.
Is that something that you want to do? Because, I mean, in theory, that would be handled by the city anyways, I mean, the city
What I
manager.
usually do is, if it's a monetary question, about seasonals or whatever, I'll answer that. If it's something specific about, is my boat too big to be docked at the, I forward that right over to Tim Bailey. We have a little system kind of going, so right now it works, so I don't have a problem leaving it as is unless you want to change it.
Are we still using DACWA for the
Yes,
reservations?
yes.
And those monies go to you afterwards?
Well, they go to the Marine Maintenance Trust because we're
Well,
paying.
no, but
Yeah.
they pass through your,
All the finances come to me, that is correct.
but that is as much in your role as comptroller for the city as opposed to your
Yeah.
liaison for the trustees, right?
Pretty much both, yes.
Okay. All right. All right, well, why don't you send around
Okay.
what you have, but let's just take an independent peek and we'll have Stephanie come in and just clean it up.
Just going back to the comment on the public comment space in Prescott Park. I remember because I was involved when McCain made his announcement running for president. That decision and reserving the space was approved by the city attorney. So, and that would go back, I mean, two elections before, so it would be good to know. Certainly nothing that trustees want to be involved in, but who does make the decision on the use of city sidewalks and people that, because every Sunday in front of the North Church, there's a group that, they change every week, but protest. And it's getting a little bit difficult because they now all carry big flags. And I've come around the corner and my car has been hit in the windshield with these flags. Now, I don't want to get involved in whether you want these people out there or not, but they should be controlled. Who controls them?
Yeah, well, you're getting into a very intersection of public policy and
Yeah.
civil rights, etc. Just to give you a little history, at one point the trustees did have, when we were actually operating the park, these issues came to us. So Dana, you recall that at one point, there was one group who actually had lawyers come up from Boston to address us on something they wanted to do. And we were using the legal department as our legal advisors on how to handle that issue. But there was, once you designate an area as a public forum, then you've got to make it available to everybody. You can have certain limits on time, place, and manner.
Well,
but-
that came up at the city council meeting, the last city council meeting. Some woman wanted to sell potato donuts to raise money for the war, yeah. And they didn't allow it, and they told Karen to work with her to come up with an alternative location. Because once, as Bob said, if you approve one you got to approve them all.
That question was about someone wanting to use the stage.
Yeah, that's exact. So
Right.
so somebody came to us and said, we want to use the stage when the Arts Festival is not in progress to hold a rally. And we had to say no, because then literally everybody who wanted
Sure.
to
That
have a
was-
speaker. So that's why it's only the little area that's to the total north corner of the park, where you see all these announcements and political candidates, et cetera.
Yeah.
But it's not clear, like Peter asked, does someone need to get authorization to have a public comment, to use the public comment space? See, nowhere's on the website does it say that, or who to get
So
authorization
I believe the
from.
request goes to the city manager's office.
Yeah.
I mean, I know that the yoga in the park that they have, I mean, that goes to the city manager, and so I'm assuming that they all do. and that
Well,
would make sense.
then there must be a city council policy.
There is a city policy, because I remember the issues came up where things like you can't use a megaphone
Right.
Yeah.
when there's a performance going on in the park, or things of that nature, so there is a policy.
Yeah. Well,
All right, well, we'll try to work on that. If you could reach out to Stephanie
will.
for next month.
Set her up for next month, yes.
Okay, we got some checks to sign.
Just sign.
While you're passing those around, is there any new business or old business you'd like to address?
These are all scholarship checks. We awarded about $130,000 so far out of the amount that we designated, so there's a slew of them here.
That's impressive. Thank you.
School, guidance office did a great job.
No, so you're happy with how that's working out?
Yeah, they did a great job this year. Brittany did a great job, and they gave out some big awards to some students. You'll see
Yep.
some big checks.
Here's one for $5,000.
There's a couple for 15,
Really?
yeah.
That's serious.
gee, Tom.
I like to see where the colleges are.
I know that you. A few big schools in there.
Yep.
Northeastern.
Any idea what percentage of the Portsmouth High grads go on to college?
I don't have that number. Sure, Brittany.
I did know that once, it's some form of advanced learning. It goes,
Now 7,000.
Let me sign this.
We're gonna rotate them, that way I can
Okay.
keep track of them, if you don't mind. I gotta make sure they all come back with me.
you mean, you want me to take the one out of my pocket that I just,
Try to cash.
Is that the Weeks University?
I think I gave Peter the biggest bunch. second signer on those. These,
All right, thank
give me
you.
those. And give Tom these.
Rensselaer.
I will say, it's kind of interesting that almost all of these schools are East Coast schools.
We just had a Florida Gulf Coast.
Yeah,
But no,
Yeah, no
Notre Dame.
California.
Yeah, exactly.
all right, now,
Yeah.
you know, somehow we ought to be able to let him know he doesn't need to record.
No, I can, whenever we have a motion, I can call them off, so.
You can, no, I mean,
Yeah, all right, well, any
Unless there's
other
anything else.
new business or old business? Hearing none, no from the public, so I will adjourn the meeting.
So move.
Second.
All in favor?
Wow.
Aye.